Hello and welcome. The wheel keeps turning, and we are just spokes in the wheel, I guess. Justin, hello. Put the books down. Hello.
Sorry, I was researching that one little. There was a very important rock in this show. I was checking about it. It happens like book 8, where that rock is really important.
A rock?
Yeah, just a random rock. It's really important. I think it's a part of this book right here. I was checking it before the show. No, I'm just kidding.
What are you reading these?
Hi.
What are you reading, Justin?
Hi, I'm Justin. How you doing? These are
I'm Paul.
These are Wheel of Time books. These are all the ones I own.
Yeah.
Right there. I haven't finished the series. I'm excited about.
We're because this is Playing Favorites.
Yeah.
And this is Playing Favorites reviewing, and we're doing something a little different here, Justin.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna go episode by episode and talk about the Wheel of Time. This is Talking Wheel Time with Playing Favorites. We can come up with a dozen names, but it's us, your boys Justin and Paul, talking about the Wheel of Time series on Amazon Prime.
Yes.
Very exciting. First of all, 3 episodes were going to come out at once. Slated to come out on Friday, but then they did what to us, Justin? They dropped it a day early.
I know. I was like so excited.
Sure.
I don't know what happened there. I was like really excited. Yeah. No. I've been really excited for this series. I've been waiting this series for like decades. I feel like. I mean,
a good version of it.
Yeah. Well, did you ever see that version? That like the YouTube one?
No. The FXX, remember it was like on FX or something.
I don't know what that was, but we'll get. I don't know what that was. I really don't get it.
Find a little bit of that.
It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look into it.
It's not real. It's not an official thing. It's like a pilot.
Oh.
Like it was like a test run, and it makes no sense at all.
They like secretly dropped it at 2 a.m, like on a Tuesday.
Yep, it's on YouTube. But yeah, I'm excited to go through this show. They dropped it early, like you said. I messaged you right away. Like I dived right into it. I watched all 3 the first night. Like I couldn't stop. Couldn't stop. So what is
you had your wife with you though? That's the thing. I told Kristen. She was like, if it's good, I'd like to watch it. And after we've watched the 3 episodes, she was like, I'm so glad to be invested in a series.
Yay!
Yeah, she might make a special appearance down here tonight.
Oh,
but she really, she was. We were talking about it, just about like every spare moment. She would just look over at me and be like, "Can we talk about the show? Can we talk a little bit more?" I'm like, "Sure."
That's great.
And she's asking me questions like she was like, "Well, what about this? Like, what will happen with this person?" And I'm like, "I don't know, honey." After halfway through the first episode is my knowledge of the book. Like my knowledge fell off a steep cliff because I never got past like the 2nd chapter or something. Reading it back in high school.
Winter's Night, a good chapter. I think that's like chapter 7 or 5 or something like that.
When you first got the books, I was just like, yeah, Winter's Night. It's a good chapter. It's the only chapter.
I think there was a point where you like took the book off my shelf once and like read Winter's Night again in the bathroom. I feel like that has happened.
You're like, stuff, and I was like, yes, it's a very good chapter. But thank you for throwing me under the bus of yes, I went and read an entire chapter from a Robert Jordan book in the bathroom. It's in there for 45 minutes.
But
hey, real quick. Gotta ask you. So your wife is watching it as well with you, right?
Yep.
In her general disposition to the show, thumbs up.
I mean, I had a feeling based on all the trailers, like she would like this show. I was never really concerned about her liking it. Like she typically likes these kind of fantasy
kind of
or like. Yeah. I mean, I would say there's been a couple of them that's come out over the years that were like either on Netflix or streaming. I can't remember. Like there was one that was based off an older fantasy novel by like what's that one author's name? Goodkind or something like that. Terry Goodkind.
Okay.
They made like a book series off that. And she's always gets into these kind of like fantasy type shows. I've always tried to get her into reading these books because I feel like she'd like them, but it is a very daunting task. I can, I can't even finish it. Like I love it. I'm like. It's just there's a lot of reading involved, and it's hard to do
Well, I
that.
got to tell you, after watching the first 3 episodes, somebody I know has requested the first book from the library. She's ready to read The Eye of the World,
Mm.
and I think we're gonna try to read it side by side. Try to read it together.
Yeah.
But
Anyways, like
very excited for that.
my overall reaction, seeing how I've been one that's read the books. I've read Eye of the World twice. Actually,
Yes.
I reread it like a few years ago because it was my thought process was I'll reread the first book because I read the first book in like high school. So
Yes.
it's been literally 20 years since I first started this series. Like I got it in 2001, and read it, loved it, was excited to get the next one. Read, which I have. I don't have the first book with me though, because that one got so destroyed and mutilated. I think
Oh.
I think the binding
Dog-eared.
broke. Like the binding
Yep.
broke and everything. So I'm just like, I think I remember when this happened. I said it to you. I'm like, oh, it's so sad. I threw it away.
It's sad when you got to let a book go, but they're like sometimes you can just read them to death.
Yeah,
A bunch of those.
but
But listen, I just got to mention before you go on, a couple quick things. First of all, you are going to be our resident Wheel of Time expert. Whether you want that mantle or not, it's yours.
please don't
So
call me
you're-
expert.
you're
If some real time
you're
fan that
expert.
has read these books like 5 times watched this, please understand. Like I love this series, and I've actually created Wheel Time fans that have read are more of a fan than me. Like I'm like a salesman of this series. At least I try to be.
You pass it forward to others. That's good.
Yeah.
Yes. So you are you're a cheerleader for these books and
Yes,
for Robert
been-
Jordan's
yeah.
works. Yeah. But and what we're going to do here, at least for the time being, we're going to kind of talk about our general feelings about the show, just initial impressions. We're not going to talk about spoilers for a few more minutes, and then we're going to talk about spoilers. But we'll make sure we give people a heads up before we delve into a lot of the specifics. But
before we do
got
that,
a lot
though,
of ground to cover here.
yeah, before we do that, just to kind of let anyone that's new that's found our show because of Wheel of Time or stumbled on this video or our podcast. I mean, we do a lot of different other shows right now. We occasionally dabble with some Let's Plays on our YouTube channel. We've done other reviews. I feel like our plan is to do more of those. But we typically do a show that talks about our favorites. Wheel of Time actually was on one of those episodes. I think one of our favorite fantasy world. I think that's what we called it.
Favorite fantasy world, or something like that.
Yeah, fantasy landscape.
Fictional fantasy. That sounds about right.
I think that made my favorite. From what I remember, I'm pretty sure. I can't think of any other one that would beat that.
You've definitely talked about this show, about this book series on the show.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. So I've been waiting for this series for so long. I just want to say my initial impressions. I'm going to just dive right in. But again, I just wanted to let everyone know that we do other things. I've always felt, after you get through the first book, and you get to the later ones, and you start going. I'm not going to talk about what happens. I'm just saying, I've always felt a series or a show would fit this so much more. You always think movies for these kind of things initially. The only thing you had to really base off for TV shows when these books are coming out were Xena and Hercules, and I never wanted that kind of stuff.
Didn't want that treatment. The Hercules, the Legendary Journeys treatment.
Nothing against that. I mean, that was entertaining for what it was. You know what I mean? I liked.
You don't want to see Trollocs doing Three Stooges style violence. You want to see real.
Yeah.
But
that's all I kind of maybe had knowledge. I mean, granted, when I was reading when I started the series, Lord of the Rings, the film was coming out. So I mean, I had a sense of what it could be, right? So I've always had high hopes for this series to be kind of on film or some form, but it is kind of it's kind of the first experience I've had of that. I've had cartoons become live action or things of that nature. You have some sort of reference of the visual. It's oh, that's a Marvel character, that's an X-Men character, But I've never actually seen a book that I've read come to life, and it's a very surreal experience. I usually watch the movie then read the book. That's typically how I've always been. So I'm overall happy with it. There's some changes and stuff, but I think visually they really made it feel like how I envisioned a lot of the scenes, how I remember them happening, even better than maybe my imagination let me go. But like the characters that were depicted based on my understanding of them are very well done. I don't really have many complaints. I mean, I have like questions about decisions and so forth, but overall as a show, I think they did a good job at replicating what I remember or what I've read for the series. That's my overall impression.
It's definitely like giving you a sense of like you like the same feeling like as you read the book. Very similar kind of sentiment as you're reading it or as you're watching it. I have to say, I do remember the description of the village, the two rivers. I forget the other name for the area, but
Terran Ferry.
Is that it? Terran's Ferry. Yes. Yeah. I thought it was like that's the one of the things I noticed right off the bat. The location shots are beautiful. Like it's very well done. If they put all their money into location shots, then fine with me. They've got enough of a good writing to develop these characters and just make the world feel like an actual world. You know, it doesn't feel like they're doing a lot of green screen, which is good. I like sets. I like, you know, actually seeing the physical place. That all helps. That all helps to make
it sells
world
it. You know,
real.
That's what makes it not feel like Xena or Hercules, right? Because like this easily could maybe fall in that realm if you don't give it that. Oh, my cat! I have my own cat joining me.
Hey!
But you know, you could easily fall in that trap of just like focusing so much on like I don't know the costuming and the set and not the overall world. It feels very open, I guess, is what I think what you're maybe saying too.
It feels very like in the very beginning, you know, before Winter's Night. It feels very insular and like this nice homey place. But then as soon as they leave, you'd realize just how wild it is out there and just how, you know, how far they have to go. Really feels like the beginning of an epic journey. Just the way that it's like the locations they've been to already, just in the first 3 episodes. It's like these aren't terribly far from where these characters, like the 4 villager characters, have grown up. But here they are, you know, like out there trekking through the world for the first time. So it's exciting. It's exciting for them, even though you know they didn't really want to go. But I love the like. That's we'll talk about that shortly. But I think I can really appreciate the location shots. The character work so far has been really good. I've been really enjoying the casting. I think each character so far, what I've seen, has kind of like fit that role, especially Moraine and Lamb Mandragoran, the
Mandragon.
Mandragon, really?
Yeah, it's Mandragon.
All right, Mandragon. He looks different than what I expected, but his demeanor is what I remember.
Yes,
if that makes sense. You know, like he's got the attitude of that character down pat. Like,
well, I mean, I wish I had the book here, but like you can look online. But like the cover of the book, sort of like the artists of these books definitely never like. I mean, just to kind of, I don't want to give anything away, but like
I remember the art.
Yeah, like the art for Wheel of Time series really throws off like what they're depicted as in the novel. Like it's like I almost like they didn't really have a connection whatsoever, like what Rand looked like or what.
Do you remember when when they would do this to fantasy novels? Like that's why I always thought these Robert Jordan novels were not like real literature, because they felt like something you'd get at the airport, you know, just like cheap fantasy, you know, whatever, like some, I don't know, Edgar Rice Burroughs ripoff or something. But the art was always kind of like, oh, all right, is that really what Rand looks like? He's got a big red shirt, and that's all I remember is like him looking like totally 90s.
Yeah, the wardrobes of these things aren't bad on the cover. I'm like looking at them now. I don't have the. They don't really like. It's funny because like on the cover of the first one, Rand really isn't a prep. He's on a very like a lot of the characters don't like all the side characters aren't really prevalent. It's like it's Moraine and Lan, right? That's the
Yeah,
main
isn't he
ones.
like on the spine and then to the back,
Yeah,
like to show just how minor they are?
yeah.
Like you didn't
But
even make the cover. You're like on the spine and
but
on the back.
Lan just has like they pretty much just they took away his armor. Like they didn't like go as hardcore with his armor, right? Like he looks
Yeah,
so
they made it more just like fabric armor type of thing.
yeah. So I mean, I think that's where the demeanor, like his presence, sort of disappears a little bit, like as far as his costuming goes. But like, yeah. But beyond that, though, you're right. The mannerisms and stuff like are great. So, but yeah,
I
overall,
like those.
my first note was visuals look great. That's my first note that I wrote down.
Are we? We're about 16 minutes in here. Should we say that we're going to talk about spoilers?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone got our initial, thoughts on how we like it. Watch it. I definitely view. I mean, I guess I have one question before we go into that. I mean, I think everyone's been kind of comparing this to Game of Thrones. It's like the first big fantasy show that's come out, really. Like, what would your take on that question would be? Like, would somebody that likes that be into this? Like,
I am going to answer you with this answer. Absolutely. If you like Game of Thrones, you would like this. It's going to take it's the ground floor, the pilot episode and then two in. But by the time you get through the first three episodes, I feel like you're invested in it.
mm-hmm.
And they're already doing things in this show that we wanted to see, like very similar things that we wanted to see in Game of Thrones be done, but they just kept like hanging it like in the distance, like the little carrot, on a stick, just, and then they didn't deliver on it in the end. Just in this the first three episodes, I remember turning to Kristen and saying, like, now Game of Thrones could have done this if they wanted to, but they didn't. They could have done. I forget what exactly it was that gave me that.
No, to dive into
Made
that.
me say that, but there were a lot of things about it that there's a few like Game of Thrones characters even in here. Like the guy who plays Tam is Tam, right, or Tam?
Tam, Tam.
Tam is Roose Bolton, and it's actually a good casting because Roose Bolton is this like cold as ice, betrayer. But then this version, he's like a father figure a father to Rand. And
very very positive father figure. It was
yes,
weird. It was weird watching him laugh in one scene.
As it passed.
Yeah.
Seeing him smile.
I would just say, like, if you're first diving into the show and if you like fantasy, you're gonna like it. You're gonna love it.
Yes.
Yes. And I would say, but
if you like the Game of Thrones, you would like this.
Yeah, this just typically has a little bit more fantasy than I think Game of Thrones started with. That's the only thing. Like, Game of Thrones kind of builds into that fantasy the more you watch it.
Took a while for that magic part of things to cook up with the dragons, and then magic coming back into the world, which is it's still an interesting idea. It's just nobody, like, George R.R. Martin never really like established rules for how that magic works exactly. Whereas in this show, they say right away, like they say, like, there is this power, like the one or like the source, whatever, that all people who can channel it can tap into it. It drives men insane. That's why women are the ones that use it mostly, the Aes Sedai. And like I've got like a class of people already. I've got like differences in how magic is used and who can use it. And even if they didn't even come out and say that, like the opening sequence there, what'd you think of that? Because I don't think that's how the book starts. The original book there with the
well, let's just say we're going to dive into spoilers right now. Let's go. Let's do it.
Let's go.
So that scene it happens. It's not how it starts. And maybe that's a reference to New Spring that I didn't know.
We're talking about the scene where they're chasing one dude and
I know who that dude is, and he shows up again at the end of episode 3.
Yep.
And I know his name. I could say his name if you want me to say his name. But but anyways, like
will he appear?
Like he does show up in Isle of the World, and it's sort of like explained what happened in is, they mention all the stuff that happened in that first scene. It does happen prior to everything, but I thought that was a good start because it shows the power right away. It gets you interested in like what can these Aes Sedai do. I kind of know. I actually know who that character is that captures him.
Seems like she's kind of important.
Yes,
especially later on when we get to episode 3.
Yeah, most of the Aes Sedai you're going to meet are mostly important. I mean, there's a lot of them. I mean, the Aes Sedai I've always sort of referenced as like an order, kind of like the Jedi in a weird way. Like they kind of stop the dark side, which is men, but they can use the power. But no, I like that because it really kind of like explains what they're looking for, like, and sort of the elements. It was a really good introduction of why Moiraine's on this journey. The book doesn't really give you that right off the bat. The book sort of kind of like this lady shows up, like you kind of actually get the book starts off very differently. Like you're like in the past, and the book starts off with like the original dragon. That's like you're like it's like a prologue. So it's like a conversation between like the original dragon, that eventually it's just a scene between him and like somebody else, and I can't really remember exactly, but it's just like and you almost like you forget it by the time you get to the end of the story, but then that whole kind of like interaction eventually has more sense later on. So it's like kind of like a weird world building type thing. It's like, okay, who are these characters? It's like, I don't know. It's just like a backstory kind of thing. But, like, I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
No, I mean, so this episode, the first one called Leave Taking, it starts with this scene of the group of Aes Sedai women chasing the guy who you're talking about, who has a name, and you will say this name, I guess. But
I was waiting for permission.
It's like a prologue to the actual like beginning of the show, because after that scene they capture him. Then we're in the village, right? That's where we're taken to after that.
Yeah.
Or is it Moiraine, or do we get Moiraine?
Well, Moiraine and Moiraine saying it's not the one. That's not it. They're talking about they talk about the prophecy, right? He's like, oh, he was born around the same time as when the prophecy was supposed to happen, because
he should be coming to age about now.
Yeah, the prophecy, there was a baby born at a certain date, and he's right around that same age, and so Can
you tell us a little bit about the dragon? What's the whole idea in the lore here of the dragon and the Dragon Reborn? What's it supposed to do? What does it mean?
I don't know. So, I mean,
I don't know.
Like, I mean, okay, the best way I could describe the dragon, like using other references, is Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like, I don't. So, do you ever watch that show? Do you know about that show?
I know about the show.
Okay, well, pretty much it's like the dragon is continuously reborn after they are passed away, and they pretty much eventually, like, they are like the most powerful person that can wield the source, or wield the one power.
They can channel. They
can channel it, but like they're the most powerful because men technically can become extremely powerful with the source. It's just they go insane, and part of that is, I mean, this is, I'm afraid to like talk about this part, but pretty much I can use the episode as an example. Do you notice that he has seeing somebody different that's not there in that first scene? Like, there's a guy, there's two guys, right? But then the other one's not there.
It's almost like he's hallucinating the other dude.
Yeah, so like you do tend to hallucinate, but then you also see past selves and past dragons. And
so that guy could have been the previous dragon.
Yeah, I don't know if they casted that or not, but like that could be. I mean, there's a bunch of them, but like that the one that they work with is Arthur Hawken. And I think I don't know if that would be him or not. Like, I can't. I'm not sure. I don't think that is.
It's a really regular name, Arthur Hawken.
Well, it's Arthur Hawken. There's no H.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Point taken.
But
It
there's
was nice
another,
to see Winter's Night.
yeah. But no, but I wanted to say the visually, like after that shot though, you see like these like tall towers, like almost like skyscrapers of like rock and glass.
Yes.
And I'm
Very interesting.
trying to figure out what that is. Like I'm wondering if that's a reference to maybe an ogre setting, but I'm not sure because they talk about ogre settings a lot in the book, and I don't remember that being described like that. But like I got to look that up and see what people think those this like gigantic towers are.
Because for a minute I was like, is this taking place in like the distant future?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's Horizon Zero Dawn. That's what's happening.
Seriously, I mean, those buildings did look like actual buildings.
Yeah, that's
like the rotted out, like a post-apocalyptic landscape.
Yeah, I can't imagine that's what. I mean, that's definitely not something that I.
That's right. But like what are they then? That's
I gotta check. I gotta check to see what they're describing there because that doesn't sound familiar from my any kind of memory. Because there's a lot of references to just lore and stuff throughout. More so, I think the next 2 episodes, but not the first one. The first one just kind of really does a good job of setting the stage. So in the beginning,
yes,
like,
I just gotta say though, like, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Like when you're in the village and you're learning more about all the characters. So you got the main characters are besides Moraine and Lan. We got Egwene. You got.
I'm glad we're doing this. Yep.
You got Rand al'Tor. You got Matt Cawthon. You got Perrin Ayabara, and Nynaeve Almer. It's weird hearing Nynaeve. See, like you'll ask
These
Eddie
are names you've been pronouncing.
Yeah, like it's
one way for years.
And I've had like conversations with other real time fans. I'm like, and like there's a glossary. It tells you how, like in the back, how to pronounce these things. But there's like big debates on like. Yeah, because like these books, they have like an index of character names and like terminology and like a dictionary. It's like awesome. Like they actually have like it's like here's a synopsis of what the War of the 100 Years was, and you could read what it is. It's like
nice. It's got its own appendices.
Yep,
we can appreciate that.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I'm glad we were talking characters here before we set out on the actual journey. I will say that Rand, who seems like obviously one of the central main characters, I was getting some, as I said to you the other night, some Hayden Christensen vibes.
And again,
episode 2 from him. Just the look, but they got his mismatched eyes right. I noticed that. And just like watching, I've been noticing some Game of Thrones extras in the background, a couple minor characters from other like HBO series like Rome. So it's strange because it seems like some familiar faces, but I like what I'm seeing so far. So let's kind of zoom through here the first episode, because the first episode is just a giant exposition machine. That's all I was going to say. I felt like at one point they just wheeled out this big brass thing and turned the crank, and it's the exposition machine. It's like, okay, let's tell everybody everything we know. Let's set the stage. And Moraine does a lot of it. And what we really liked, especially in the second episode, is that her talking to the other characters is giving us information while she's also like answering their questions, which I thought that was pretty well done. A good way to get across that information.
Well, those because the side characters, they are oblivious. They've never left their village, and all they know is just the way they do things. Like I don't know if I don't consider this a spoiler. It's like to the point where they have like a king and they have a queen to their like land, but they don't know about it because it's like they're like the distance between the queen and them and where they live. They don't feel like they're part of any kingdom. They're just their own little village that does their own things. But like the introduction of each character was kind of fast paced. It's correct. They do it kind of right. Perrin being married, I'm trying to think that through a little bit
is he not married in the book at all?
No. Like they're teenagers in the book. Like they've definitely they aged them up, And like Egwene and him having sex in the first episode, yeah, that doesn't happen. Them holding hands was a big deal in the book. Like that doesn't, it's like
kids these days.
Know, it's like
I was surprised by that too. I was like, that definitely that definitely didn't happen in the book. Like them having sex.
But them having a relationship, is a thing. Like that whole thing where like she does the leaf taking, which is actually the when she gets pushed off the river. I think that's
trial by drowning. Yes, yeah. Trial by drowning, as I refer to.
But yeah, like
we love you. You're our sister. This braid will always remind you. Shove.
I love the women's circle. Like they have like that's the thing the book does give you more is understanding of the village. Like you have you spend more time there. I feel like in the beginning, like you definitely just like here's the village. Here's some characters. They seem pretty happy. They have their own little problems, hit or miss, and. Yep. Oh,
beta male cafe.
After everything's said and done, you get their personality a little bit. Egwene's dealing with this thing, Perrin's dealing with... Like, in the book, Perrin doesn't deal with anything. He's just a happy-go-lucky guy. So I think that's why they made him married. Just to kind of give him a sense of, like, loss, I guess. Because really he isn't... Yeah. He doesn't lose anything. He just has to, go because he was told to.
That's what, I'm sure when they were trying to develop this, they were like, we can't just do that. We can't just have another dude. Because Matt seems kind of like in that boat, too. It's like, well, I got nothing else to do, and this lady's telling me I have to go with her, so I guess I'll go.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even really want to go. But Perrin is kind of like, at least in the show, he's still kind of in shock and still dealing with the death of his wife, which, by the way, was the dumbest part of that whole fight. The Trollocs invading the village was an excellent scene. I thought that was great. They enter like a wrestler, like Ultimate Warrior would have entered. It was just like, lights! Like they just and they're running out, and I was like, whoa!
But
they had such a grand entrance.
We can come back to Perrin. Like I want to talk about the Trollocs because the Trollocs are the hardest thing to like when you read what a Trolloc is, it's like it is weird. Like you're just it's like this Trolloc has a beak like a hawk and an arm like a bear and goat feet. Like it's just like they're just mixed match animals. But like when
monstrosities.
And the only depictions you would have online were 2D drawings, so they look ridiculous. It's like think of like cartoon drawings of just animal things. Like I just imagine
a crab claw for an arm and a tentacle for the other.
Just imagine an American eagle head with horns coming out of it and just lizard hands. It looks like that thing we used to do when we were kids. It's make your own monsters, and it was
yes, yes, exactly. Make your own Trolloc. No, I like that. I like that each one of them was distinct and different and kind of there's something swinish about them, but Minotaur type of thing. But they're all distinct, their horns, their facial features. I think that's good. They're all just a little different, like that. Instead of making them have lizard hands and hawk heads, you can still kind of have that. And hey, maybe down the road you'll see more varieties of Trollocs, but they are in service to the Dark Lord, right?
Yes.
To the Dark One. I should call him the Dark Lord.
Yeah, he has a lot of names. It's he, whatever. Names. I mean, you can call him Sauron to make it make sense if you want. He's not the same though at all. I don't.
But who is running? Who's in charge of these Trollocs? Who's their general? I guess,
the Fade.
Eyeless.
It's the eyeless, the faceless. Some people they call it that too. In the book, it actually has an actual legit name. I don't know if they're going to say it, but they're called the Midral, Mydraal, something like that. The Midral. They can control trial. I mean, they give some little explanation of that in the second episode. It's the Fade can make the Trollocs do anything except for this one thing. But they pretty much are just a driving force. They pretty much control it. It's just things that are set up by the Dark One. There's a sense of hierarchy and control. that he has created.
Yeah.
You can almost consider him Satan to a certain degree.
He's like corrupted these things, and they're all like in service to him. They don't have like any feelings or desires. That was the thing that I was trying to tell Kristen about. I'm like, there's like, unlike the orcs and the goblins portrayed in Lord of the Rings, they're not like talking and discussing things with each other. They're just mindlessly doing, like following their directive.
It's
like,
debatable.
Oh, I got it.
In the book, there's like select ones that are smart. They can say words. Like the one. Okay, so we'll jump to the scene. So you have the whole attack on the village, right? Which honestly, I have to say, I was really impressed with how brutal it was and how violent it was, because that's one of the concerns I had about like thinking about this show. It's like, oh, they're gonna desensitize all the violence. I don't want it. I don't care if it's like gory. It's just like the way it's described is extremely violent in the book. And it's very jarring because the rest of the book is sort of just like them on horses and talking and a lot of interaction and dialogue, where these like very violent, like horrible scenes happen sometimes. It's not like Game of the Thrones where it's trying to be shock value. It's just like it's like these are monsters. They're going to rip you apart. Like it's a very violent thing that happens. Where you find like even the sheep that are like kind of mutilated and destroyed, right? Which I want to talk on that. Sorry, I have a lot of things to say. I said about the first episode. So if you look at the way the sheep are laid,
that little pattern, we saw it again later.
Yes, so that is the symbol of the Aes Sedai. So the yin and yang is a very big prevalent thing. You see it a lot in the books actually too. I wonder if I could find an example. Like if I could find like each beginning of chapter has like a symbol that sort of represents kind of what the chapter is about. It's like, we have it's like almost like houses or like different nations have like a coat of arms type thing, I guess.
Sure.
But the Aes Sedai, if like you have like sometimes you have like Aes Sedai, it's like the symbol of Tar-Valon. I just can't find. Of course, the one I pick up, I can't find the symbol. I could try to see it.
So I do remember that scene you're talking about where what's his name? Lan is out. Lan is out like kind of in the woods, and he comes across that, and that's I think his first clue that they're being that like Trollocs are coming, and then the next thing he says to Moraine when they're back at the village, it's still like even daytime. He's like, they're coming, dozens of them.
Yep.
And nobody moves. Nobody does anything. Nobody tells them like they're coming or anything. And then boom, in the middle of this, the Winter's Night festival, they invade and they're killing and mutilating left and right, and eating any flesh that they can get their hands on. It seems as well.
Mm-hmm.
Within that, Nynaeve is like taken. She's just like dragged away.
It's like it's so like brutal but violent. Like you see how like they fight back though too. Like there's a lot of people in that. That's actually an important thing that they did. Like they didn't make the fact that the villagers do fight back are it's kind of relation to like the old blood that she's referencing. It's like the old blood is runs
this
deep.
was the place that stood against the dark one in the past, and they were able to hold their own, and like there's some kind of like inner strength that these people, these villagers have, and they do fight back, and they do succeed. I love the ladies at the end that surround the one Trolloc and just keep poking and prodding at him until he goes down, and then they're stabbing him. And no, it's great. The action sequence is like, it is jarring. It is, and I think it's like kind of the point. It's like, what would this be like if these marauding, destroyers come through a village during a party? Like, this is what would happen.
Yeah.
But they weren't completely off guard. Like, Rand and Tam were able to fight back against the one that was in their house.
He's the one that talks in the book.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, it's like in the book something happens where like they go, I think they go to the party, and then they come back like they don't stay, and then like it's like the one Trolloc is like, he's like, I'll wait, like he says something like, I'll wait, Narg wait. They come, like they always come back or something like that. Like he's like, I smart, like
I smart,
something of that. I can't remember.
That's the level of their intelligence.
I honestly I love the depiction of that fight too. I do have a few things. Tam's casting is fine. I like it. It's okay. But that's my only one gripe about the first episode is that Tam and Rand's relationship was really built up for that first five chapters. You understood it really well, and it's you kind of were sad when he gets attacked by the sword and you think he's dead, and there's a little bit more meaning to him getting the sword. That sword is a really kind of jaw opening scene.
We definitely picked up that sword is important, just in the very brief shots, him getting it from its special case under the bed, and then when he opens it from the, he pulls it from the scabbard, and you see the it looks like a heron, some kind of bird.
Yep.
Symbol on the just above the hilt, so it's got some meaning, and it also kind of clues in Tam's maybe got a past he hasn't discussed yet, or that we'll find out about. All that stuff gets wrapped in. This is what we do when we watch these shows, though. It's they lingered on that for 1 second more than usual.
So I mean, I know they do a good job of representing that stuff, but the thing that's missing that you just can't do in a show. I don't think there's any better way they could do it, except for maybe they try to build up some relationship with Rand and Tam when they're walking on the rocks. He's throwing rocks out of the road, but it's just that Rand's his inner monologue during that scene is really kind of enlightening. It's he's his extreme surprise that his dad can use a sword and fight that way and do those things. It's it's just a very different feeling than watching it, I guess. Which I know you've read that part because you read Winter's Night. So
no, and I do recall just how much was spent between the two characters and how sad I was when I thought he was dying. Yeah. But like I said, they cranked in the exposition machine, and it was we got a lot to turn out here in a short amount of time. And honestly, I mean, this that really is the main action of this episode. We see Nynaeve, who's the current wisdom of the village, being dragged away by the Trolloc. So as far as we know, we think that she's dead, or could be.
All the characters think she's
us
dead.
Us watching it though, we're she's not dead.
Well,
she got dragged away.
They spent too much time on her character to just have her be disappeared like that. But
it was very quick.
People that aren't familiar with that stuff, they might think, "Hey, it's Game of Thrones." It doesn't. It could happen.
I didn't know either. But if it was going to happen, it would have happened Egwene's dance partner. It would have been sudden and he just got stabbed out of nowhere. That's how it would have happened. But so right after that, Moraine comes and joins the battle and really starts destroying the Trollocs.
That's awesome.
Using drawing on the one power, which is cool. Cool to watch her do her thing, and Lan, defending her, the way that he kind of makes this very persistent circle around her. There was an old guy with a beard who died of what looked like an arrow to the knee. There didn't seem to be anything else wrong with him. He just took an arrow to the knee, and he was "Oh, I'm dead. I'm scared, and I'm dead."
Yeah, that the wound that she gets too was intense. I know. I mean, it was really cool seeing all that. I know we've talked a lot about the first episode, and we plan on doing the next two. But I just want to say, it was quick. The attack was amazing, but when they leave, I'm sitting there in my head, as far as watching it from a video, a viewer perspective, not reading the book, because in the book it just makes complete sense why they have to leave. But in the in the show, it's they talk to Moraine one time. She walks around and just asks them 20 questions. And then and then she's we have to leave. They're chasing you.
Get on the road.
Sure, let's go.
Yes. There was just get them on the road. This whole episode just feels okay, here's Winter's Night and everything that happened. Okay, we got to get you on the road. Go.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then it's when they get to the second episode, it's thank God we got through that. Now we can get on the road and get to the other exposition we have to show. But yeah, let's why don't we, since we're here between episodes, let's take a quick break. We've stopped talking about episode 1, leave taking. We'll come back and we'll talk about episodes 2 and 3 after this quick break.
Welcome back, and the wheel turns. Are you ready to see what the wheel has for us now, Paul?
If the wheel wishes it so,
Yeah.
I'll see it. Yep.
So we're going to talk about. We finished episode 1. We got through Winter's Night. You have now farther than you ever read in this whole series before.
It's all
new territory.
New and dangerous ground. Yes.
My first question: what did you think of the intro? Because we didn't get that in the first episode.
And we didn't get it in the third one either. It was just in the. Oh no, we did get it.
No, you probably skipped it. You probably skipped it.
Yeah, the second one. Yeah, I liked it. It's like you're inside a giant loom. I assume, and it's weaving.
Yeah, because they're weaving the power. They're weavers. That's how they describe it in the book. They describe it as weaving the power. You can weave the elements, weave the power.
Do this little thing here. And weave.
Yep. Well, if you notice, there's when she does the power in the first one, it's like a bunch of strands, right? Kind of moving around.
It's all like stringy looking, when it does. Which I got to say, I do like the effects for that. It's not over the top, and it's not, cheap looking. It's good. It's good for TV. They managed to make this what could have easily been, as you were saying before, about they would, like most people would try to push this for being like a feature film. No, this is definitely a series. This is a television series. It's going to take its time. Let's spread out the budget a little bit. Let's get some nice location shots. It'll be good. We'll do some character work, and we got a good story.
But that intro is cool because it really kind of showcases the Asian element that we talked about. It kind of has a lot of that too, right? Because with the yin and yang, and there's some later on some races really kind of reference that kind of like it is a very diverse story, and that's the thing I want to touch on. The second you dive into this first episode, you get the first introduction of a White Cloak, which is an awesome casting because it was I never pictured it like that. And that's sad. I want to talk on that because when you were reading this book as a kid back in the 90s, it's like every fantasy thing you saw were a bunch of white people. I'll be honest with you. You got these books and stuff that have that reference. So I never truly always. I mean, there was a race that maybe I depicted like that, but seeing him in the White Cloak outfit was perfect. It was just so awesome.
Yeah, he's a great actor too, and to see him in that role, he's terrifying. He's really chilling the way. In his scenes, because he's in the following scene, it's almost even more so because it opens up at this is episode 2, Shadows Waiting, and it opens up at the White Cloak encampment where you're introduced to this character, the Questioner, and they burn an Aes Sedai. They're like burning a witch,
and dehands her. She cuts her hands off too.
Yep. So she can't channel, right? So she can't do any of her thing. And they've got the ring, and he's got them hanging on a chain, 8 or 9 of them. I think Maureen mentioned.
That was a good.
Yeah, they do meet up with these with the group here. So
that was a good setup scene because you don't really. You meet the White Cloaks, obviously, but that was a scene I don't really remember in the book that was different. It was more a thing that they talk about, the White Cloak's got this sister or something like that. You don't really see it. I at least from my memory, I don't remember a scene like that in the book. So that was good, but that's a good setting because the White Cloaks are mostly crazy. I'm trying to see, they mentioned the White Cloaks, they run into them later, but really the beginning of it is just them just kind of getting away from the Trollocs still, right? Running away, the Trollocs chasing them, and then they take the ferry. And that's the first time you see Moraine kind of do whatever it takes to get away, right?
Yep. That's a really important scene too. And that pursuit as well was also very nerve-wracking because it was they were just resting. They thought that they were kind of out of the woods, and then all of a sudden here comes this wave of more Trollocs, and a lot of them. Chasing them down within a run, and it's kind of scary. It's good. And then they get across deep water, and Moraine says, the eyeless, the Fade, can push them to do anything, but it can't make them cross deep
Yep.
water. It can't enter deep water. It's like, okay.
Seeing it looks like. I mean, I get the reason they did that, just to give them a way to get out of it. It's like sort of a storytelling way to get them around it. But like in the book, it made a lot more sense for some reason. But when you see them like just like scared of water, it's like you got these like crazy bloody like monsters that are like just like ripping each other apart. And things like you see a scene later where like in episode 3 where one of them's eating the other one. It's like they're like, but they're like no, how, no, not water, please, no.
Well, I love it because they all like kind of like get pushed up to the edge, and then like one or two fall in, and it's like, oh crap, no, everyone get back.
But I think they handled it really well because there was so many of them. Like that's the thing like about the show. Like I didn't touch on in the first episode where it's like they show so many orcs, or not orcs, Trollocs, and it's like I'm just impressed. Like there's a shot like because I was rewatching this before we started. And it's like them being in the woods, like it's just like an army of them, just like barreling down a forest. Yes, and it's like wow, like they could have just done 7 of them and then just cut it.
Made it look like a lot of people, but no, you saw a lot of Trollocs coming down the hill. That's what makes that part of the chase like really good. And that at that point is when Kristen turned to me and she was like, "Is this whole season going to be them? It's going to be them running away from the Trollocs?" And I'm like. I don't know. This is as much as I know. I'm like, I don't think so. And when they get to the ferry and they get across, the ferryman is worried because his son is going to be coming back, but there's an army of Trollocs on the other side, and he's going to go, and she's like, no, I'm sorry, and she uses magic. Can we call it magic?
It's the power. The one power. There's
only
one.
She uses the one power.
As she says, many women call it different names, but
that's right. Egwene in the wisdom we're calling it listening to the wind, and like there's a bunch of different names for it, but it is the same thing. It's drawing from the one power. And I love how the ferryman is like, but my son, and like he jumps into a spinning boat. Like, wouldn't you? After seeing the ship spin, be like, okay, maybe not. Maybe let's think of another plan to get my son. But no, he gets on the ship, and of course it sinks, and he's dead. And the villagers, Rand and Perrin and Matt, Egwene, are all like kind of taken aback by this. This was, not what they expected. Not what they expected.
Well, and I have a note here about this too, and I was sort of like when I first watched this, like because obviously I know things, and I'm like I was kind of starting to complain to Amber a little bit. I was just like how come they left so like this is about like the ending of the last episode, like they had more reason to leave because they had explained what an Aes Sedai can do, like a little bit more, and I'm like, Jesus, like, I wrote it down, I'm like, so I wrote, like, okay, White Cloaks, intense intro, awesome, the ferry, with an exclamation point, because I remember that part in the book, I remember being cool.
Yes.
And it's like, I couldn't really remember the whirlpool, at least I don't remember envisioning that, but maybe that could have happened. But then I'm like, why is she not explaining about, like, the no-lie rule? I was, like, starting to complain, I'm like, why can't, why haven't they talked about the no-lie? This is why they kind of, like, should have known this already, because that's why they trust her so much when she says, hey, these Troiks are after you, because she can't lie. Like, Aes Sedai, now there is a kind of common distrust of Aes Sedai, because it is well known that they're really good with skirting the truth and using words and speaking and saying, like, this is the right thing, right? So you gotta be careful. Mm-hmm. And the second I complained about and said that is when they had the scene with Egwene and her explaining the 3-0. So I'm like, oh, okay, all right, I'm better now.
They do that, but and like Rand, like any normal person, I guess, like was also like, hey, what the hell are you doing? Like, we're not going any further until you tell us what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
So we got one of those scenes. We got Egwene kind of understanding a little bit more about, like, at least Moraine. And then she's kind of like sticking up for her, to Rand, and saying like, can't you see like how pale she is, like just how much this is like how much of a strain this is on her, and like why would you think like this person has like a malevolent desire when they're trying to save you from these. But anyways, that's like pouty Rand doesn't last too long. Kind of, he grows up.
That's his character. They're kind of bringing that out earlier than I remember.
Okay.
Like,
a little pouty.
Yeah, like he definitely is very stubborn, and like I wouldn't say he's quick to temper like Nynaeve is. Like, she's known for that, but like, because she doesn't trust anybody. Like, like, but yeah, like they were showing Rand's, but I think that was like, it makes sense for the show. Like, really kind of like getting him distrusting, and like, and they added that too. Like, he's already frustrated with Egwene, and like he has this thing with Moraine. His dad is like got Trolloc poison in him. Like, it's like all these things. But
it's been a lot. It's been a very big 24 hours for Rand. There's a couple things we need to talk about though as we're moving forward here, because we do get like a couple of dream sequences. One where Perrin sees the Dark One, like the Dark One is like in his dream, but also wolves. Like, he encounters the wolves, and we were kind of discussing this between episode 2 and 3. Like, what was the purpose of the wolves? Like, the first wolf, like, they surround him, and the wolf comes over and he sees like Perrin's been injured. He's got like I don't know if he's poisoned or something. He's got some kind of injury, and the wolf just kind of comes over, licks him, and just keeps going. And it's like that was Kristen goes. He was like, oh, he must be tainted meat. And it's like, yep, wolves are like, yeah, peace, see ya, good luck with that. But it doesn't seem like that. Nope. It seems like the wolves kind of like were pushing. And I'm going to kind of mention something from the third episode.
It's okay.
Kind of like they're pushing Egwene and Perrin when they get separated towards the nomads, the Tinkers. It's like they pushed them. It was like they were kind of. I saw the wolves as like a force of nature, like nature as a generally good thing. A good, like a force for good. So when when they're in trouble, the wolves kind of, in their wolfish way, push them towards, safety and shelter.
I abstain respectively. No comment. Okay.
Big wolf fight coming in episode 4 then.
The wolves are important, and noticing them is, yes, it's important. The wound, however, I can speak on. I think the wound, because that was not a thing I remember from the book. I think he got hurt during the fight.
Yeah.
And
but he didn't tell anybody about it.
And I think he's leaving it there as like what's the phrase? Because he's punishing himself due to killing his wife. Yeah. I think that's why that's there. But yeah, the wolves being there is important. You should get your answer soon.
Okay. Fair enough.
Or at least the beginning of the answer anyway. Of the meaning of the rules.
I'm trying to go over what I have. So Moraine's so like all of the 4 of our villager characters are starting to experience dreams with the Dark One in them, and then Moraine gets worse.
That bat scene. That bat scene, man, that was. I was like really confused. I'm like, oh, cool! Like the madness is happening! Yay! Like the madness! I'm like, oh, that's right. The dreams. I forgot about the dreams because like those are recurring. Where you see the eyes of Ember, as Perrin has calls it. Yeah, you see those eyes of Ember a few times.
Very creepy. Reminds me of Randall Flagg in The Stand. He just keeps popping up here and there, like in dreams. He's going to start going.
He looks like
Nadine. He's going to go 90.
Like the way he looks like he looks like
series joke just for you.
He looks like Dr. Doom, like sort of like
a little bit,
a little bit without the cloak,
like the Fantastic. You remember that one, the terrible remake of the Fantastic Four?
I didn't watch the new one.
Miles Teller, no, but he looks more like Dr. Doom's face. But So yeah, they're having these dreams, but also Moraine is getting sicker. She's not, she's getting worse. And Lan makes the decision that Moraine was like, no, don't ever take us to the what is it like the abandoned city,
Shadar Logoth.
Shadar Logoth. She was like, don't. She's like, we'll never be that desperate to have to go there. And what does he do? He takes them there
Well, yeah.
because
Well, that's after they meet the White Cloaks again, right? They have to.
oh, that's right. I didn't want to. Yeah. Let's talk about that. So they do encounter the White Cloaks again, and very quickly, Moraine is like taking off her ring,
Rain's awesome.
giving it to Lan. Yeah, it's like he already knows. He's like, yep, he knows where to put it, and they just like sink into character. And she's like, say nothing, don't do anything, don't say anything, let me do the talking. And she's able to not lie, but still cover them up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And the way the questioner dude comes and like checks her, it's like a stop and frisk,
Yep.
And he's like feeling her finger. Oh, it's very
Be with the light. Be with the light, my children.
And I love him. He is like the light's always with us. It does not need you to command it. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, the White Cloaks are such
I'll remember your faces for the next time we meet.
The White Cloaks are such an interesting like entity because they're good to a extent. Like they're gonna fight dark people. They're gonna save people,
but they have an extremist side to them, right? The people that are burning.
They're very against Aes Sedai. They're really against Aes Sedai. Hardcore.
Yeah.
Hardcore. And like you don't really know that. That's why I think that was good that they did that initial intro scene. Like it takes a little bit to learn that. Yeah. But how extreme they are, because initially like White Cloaks are just like you gotta be careful. They're White Cloaks. They're kind of like a really sort of religious cult in a sense, in a degree. Like,
yep. Sure seems like it.
Yeah. So, but like one of them was really polite, right? One of them was really nice. Like he's like, oh, yeah. You just go on your way. Like I think he's the one. He has a role. I think he's the same character. I gotta check to see if he's casted for that character. But there is like as you watch it, there is a specific like White Cloak that's like, I guess would you say like you would root for or good?
A more moderate White Cloak, one that you can get behind.
Yeah.
It certainly seemed that way. It felt to me like the White Cloaks, are doing good, but there is this like extremist side to them that they can't really control. But it's it's like they kind of just deal with it. But that one guy, didn't he tell her
go see an
like,
Aes Sedai?
Oh yeah, go up to that village. You need an Aes Sedai. She'll heal you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the other dude just walked by with his chain of like, it's like, here are my Wookiee pelts. Oh yeah, if you need help, go ask a Wookiee. Just down the road.
Mm.
Like here are my trophies from killing these women.
They're very interesting group of people.
But that was really tense. Very, very tense scene. Seemed like it was going to jump off at any second. But thankfully they're able to pass safely through. And that's when I think that they rest for the night, and then Moraine gets exhausted, and the Trollocs start to catch up.
They're catching up to them, so they have to get to they have to race to Shadar Logoth, and I was so excited for Shadar Logoth because I remember loving that in the book. They do handle it not like drastically differently, but they're like I remember like I'm walking. It's funny because I couldn't remember a lot of it either. Like Amber doesn't like suspense. Like she hates suspense. Like she can deal with like the blood and the gore and and all that stuff. But like she's like you got Matt walking around like just like doing a Matt thing, right?
So Amber and Kristen should watch this together because like during these very suspenseful moments, Kristen just put a pillow in front of her head. She was just like, I can't watch.
But see, with Kristen, she can't get mad at you. Like she goes to me, it's like Justin, I don't like this. What happens next? I know you know. Tell me what happens next. And I'm like, nothing happens right now. It's just like he's just gonna find a dagger. That's all he's gonna find is some evil dagger.
Yeah.
But then I forgot about the black thing that attacks them all. So it's like,
yeah. I wanted to ask you this, if you know what it's called, because for some reason I remember in the map of the world that they're in, there was this area near where the Dark One is called the Blight. And I wondered,
Oh
is
no no no
this
no 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 no
the
no! That's
Blight?
not the blight.
Okay.
You will see the blight in this
Okay.
season. You should.
Okay.
You see the
Cool.
blight. The blight. I. It happens in book 1.
We can
Let's
wait.
put it that way.
Okay, we can wait. We'll talk about the Blight later. So, do you know what this evil? Okay, so they go into this. Let's kind of get through.
So like
So they get
there is something that they tell a story, right? They tell a story of the Manetheren earlier. We forgot that scene. So they're walking through.
that's right.
They start singing. They talk the story of the Manetheren and how they fought and fought and fought and fought. And this is the city.
Like Spartans.
This
Yeah.
is the city that like didn't help them. That's what
Yes.
the Shadow
They
Galaga is.
walled themselves in. It was like this beautiful
So-
city, but they built a wall with no doors, no gates, or anything.
Yep.
Walled themselves in.
So there was an evil that like sort of there's a name to this evil actually in the book, and like in the book, it's like Perrin, Rand, and Matt go off on like a sort of like they're a bunch of teenagers getting into mischief thing. Like they're just
Okay.
like, let's go explore around because Matt runs away first because Matt's like that's what he does. He always gets in trouble. He's the one that gets everyone in trouble.
He's the wild card.
And like in Perrin's the loyal friend, and Rand just sort of like does whatever he wants to do, kind of a thing. And they actually talk. I think they talk to somebody in here. It's like he hands them the dagger. It's like take this dagger or something. I gotta remember. I please don't take my word for it here because I'm like it's like hazy. But I remember there's like a point where they like actually are talking to somebody, but then like they think that they get away, but then Matt still takes a dagger or something without anyone knowing. So they just tweaked it so that he just finds a dagger on his own, which is fine.
It's definitely sinister looking, So
The dagger you can kind of start seeing in episode 3. Like there's like Rand's starting to question him, like what's wrong with you? Why are you acting like this? Like it's the
starting to work its way on him.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Ring to a degree.
Yeah.
Right, it's like
I guess you could say he's showing darker tendencies.
Oh sure.
In that third episode,
and
I mean, in Shadar Logoth, they do get separated because they are running away from what looks like this like blackness that's spreading throughout the city.
It's just venom. That's all it is. It's venom.
Sure. Yep.
But it like melts horses. Like
Ooh, yeah.
I was so sad. So they reference Bella. Bella is like a really big part of the story, and like they talk about Bella a lot in the book. And I think Egwin is Bella's. Like Bella is Egwin's horse, and like I feel like she is there for like a long time. And they mention her name once, and it's like, oh Bella. They said Bella, and then I think she's dead. Like so, I'm like I don't know what happened to Bella. Poor Bella.
Yeah, that horse went up pretty badly. Pretty bad. But they do get separated. And so you have Perrin and Egwene like going off in one direction, then you have Matt and Rand going off in the other, and then Alan and Moraine going off on their own as well. So they're all kind of going in different directions. And that's really like where the episode ends, except for we do get the reveal that Nynaeve is still alive. Yep, because Lan is helping Moraine, and then all of a sudden a blade put under his chin, and it's Nynaeve, and she's still alive.
Was that shocking for you, being like not knowing that she was? I mean, I know you expected her to come back.
I expected her to come back in some way. I guess I didn't expect her to come back there. But it made sense. As soon as I saw her, I was like, oh, she's going to heal Moraine. Because she was the one that Rand wanted to bring his father to.
Yep.
When he got the Trolloc poison. And when they were like, when Egwene was like, she was taken, like they carried her off. You saw like on Rand's face, like, crap. Well, then who's going to heal him?
Yep.
Yep. So it was like the dots were already connected. It was like as soon as I saw her, I'm like, oh
yeah. And they in the book they spent a lot more time on the healing. That like she's so good at like being a healer. Like it's like she understands.
They definitely tried to show it. Like her making like a poultice and popping that giant evil cyst.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's if you like those pimple popping videos, like you love that scene. It's just a big black bubble.
So do you think by this episode you would have been like, because the first one is sort of like a beginning, like you're like, oh, this is interesting. It's like a typical first episode.
Setting.
And by the second one, you think you're invested. Like, oh wow, they're going to be separated now. Like, how do they get back? Like, is that a pool? Is that for me? Because I know what's going to happen. So like, I'm wondering from just a viewer of that like has no knowledge of this. Like you had said, oh, the Trollocs is going to be chasing the whole time. I'm like, well, now they're like separated from each other. So like that to me was always been. I love when people are separated from each other. Like Game of Thrones has that, right? Like you're always.
It happens all the time.
It's like oh, I can't wait. The Starks are gonna come back together. They're gonna be a family again. No.
just the reunion. You want that reunion. Yeah, you want those characters to get back together. I was invested in it after the first episode. I already knew I wanted to watch it anyways, but even after watching when we started watching the second episode, about halfway through, like I feel like Kristen is a better litmus test for this than me. She was just like, yeah, I want to finish it, and I want to watch the next episode right after it too. And no, it was good. I mean, if this episode is shadows waiting, I'm not exactly sure what the shadow is that's waiting, other than like the shadow of danger is all around them.
Well, I think it's just I think they just meant Shadow Lagoth, because that's the shadow that attacks them. So I think that's all that's referencing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like that's like it's like a shadow that's attacking them in a sense.
Okay, I guess that's true. Yeah. So they do get separated. Nynaeve is alive. I'm invested in the show. I'm ready for episode 3. Episode 2 is, I mean, if I was to judge them, 1 I think is better. 2 is a lot of place setting, a lot more of, but there's a lot more.
It fills out the world
lore
more.
Yeah, there's a lot more lore. I guess the 3rd episode is like really exciting and really interesting. So
I've seen different things where people thought the first one was slow. Like even though you have the awesome battle, I think they were hoping for more like information in the first episode. Like I said,
more information. I
yeah,
felt like there was a lot of
like one guy on the Discord was like, I mean, I'm based on one review I read, but he's like, yeah, the first episode wasn't really gripping. I wasn't really invested. I wasn't really because
this person? Are they really?
But then for some reason they loved the second one. Like they wanted to know more and they were curious. Like
sure.
Like so, I think everyone's different, right? It's like because the first one is kind of. I mean, yes, I thought it was entertaining and visually awesome, but like at the end, it's like you're not really like there's no like cliffhanger-y thing. It's like it's not like I gotta watch the next one. I watched it. But like it's like, oh, they're gonna go run away now. So it's like it wasn't like this like kind of like cliffhanger type vibe. Where episode 2, it's like, oh, they're separated. Now what? Like I want to kind of see how that pans out. I think that's what I think maybe that's what that person was thinking of.
Yes, I liked the first episode, and I thought it was a cliffhanger enough. It's like these 4 people have been just like taken up out of their homes, and now they got to run away.
See, it's hard for me to.
I do want to see what happens.
It's hard. It's so hard for me to judge it in that regard because like I kind of know what to expect. So it's like, oh well, I just want to watch to see it to compare. But I'm
interested. Like, what had me like where they got me in the series so far, like at the end of episode 2, like I want to see Moraine get healed.
Okay.
So yeah, seeing Nynaeve come, I'm like, yes, I want to see that happen. I want to see Nynaeve heal her. I want to see them like pull back together. Like Perrin and Egwene. I was just like, okay, whatever happens to them happens to them. I didn't really care, to be honest. There's like, what I will say if I'm critiquing the show, and this is just my opinion, obviously, I don't know, it could mean absolutely nothing, is that there are these moments of slowness. Like there are these like periodically like lingers just a little too long on a scene or on a person or on a landscape.
I felt
a lot of montage. I felt a lot of like, let's look at all the characters looking off into the distance for a few minutes.
Yeah, so I felt that a lot actually in the first episode, and I was sort of like trying to not like say that was my actual feed because I'm waiting for the awesome thing because I'm like I already know all the information. I already know who that person. I don't care. Like it to me, like there's one thing I didn't bring up in the first episode, who I'm gonna just say is really important, but they do not spend a lot of time on him. Is Paddon Fane, the little like shopkeeper guy?
Oh, yeah, he plays Smitty in The Mummy Returns.
Oh, okay.
Just saying, he's a pilot with an
Oh,
eye
okay.
patch. It's that same
No,
actor. He's
but like
funny.
that character to me, Paddon Fane is a very important character. You would
You
never
did
know
not.
that. You would never know that.
Something's going on because when they were finding out like, oh, the Trollocs are coming or like an attack is imminent, like you have to, or when it started. No, no, no. When the Trolloc attack started, he just kind of like,
Yep.
hmm,
Yep.
okay, better
Yeah.
pack up my thing. He
Yeah.
didn't seem concerned. He just kind
So
of like,
he has a bigger role in the book, obviously. Like he actually gives a lot of like the history of the world, like because he's a traveling merchant. So he like you hear a lot of like, oh, this war is going on down here, or this thing's happened over here. They call it a false dragon, which is the guy you saw in the beginning of the episode. So like he kind of explains a lot of the world without you having to experience it, because they kind of treat you, the reader, as like you're in this village too. You have no clue what's going on. So
yep,
like he's like the messenger of all that information, and he's come every year. He's like the Gandalf of the town. Like everyone gets excited when he shows up. He has a bunch of cool things and whatnot. But I like how they did bring him into the show. Like I'm more just saying it out loud because I really like his casting. Like I would never again. I never pictured him to look like that whatsoever. But like I'm excited to see what this version of Paddon Payne is, because I think he's
yeah,
gonna pull it off really well, because he again
he's a
is
good actor.
it's an important character, and I'm excited. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay,
But
very
anyways,
cool.
yeah, I'd be curious because like I was watching it through and like I felt like the beginning was kind of slow. It took a long time. The Trolloc scene at the end was great. I thought I liked the later episodes. I kind of thought had more information. I like seeing those scenes. Um, I liked the conversation with Egwin and Moraine a lot, and showing the power and how that's used.
Yep,
Um, the third one I think is probably my least favorite episode, but like it's kind of weird because there's also come some cool things in there too that I really like.
I think there are a couple of really really cool things in here, and so yeah, I guess if I had to rank them, probably the third one would also be my least favorite. But yeah, the third one. Let's start talking about it. I mean, it's called A Place of Safety, and that's really what it's about. It's about Matt and Rand finding their kind of story goes. They're kind of like arguing over whether or not they should go east to the White Tower to the Aes Sedai, and Matt is kind of like, why? Like what? Like for what reason? Why do you want to do this? Like just because some lady came and told you that that's what you need to do, that's what you're going to do. Already some of like whatever is influencing him is influencing his character. And then they come across a town, and it's like, well, we can stop here. They have just enough money to get some soup,
Well,
and then they
Rand wants to
meet.
go to the tower because Egwin's going there. He knows that Egwin will go there,
Yes,
right? So
yes,
that's
that's
his motivation. That's his reason, which makes sense
right
for
now
Rand.
is, yeah, to follow her, and Matt is kind of like questioning that, and anyways, being kind of a prick about it. But um, there are important conversations to have when you go on a big journey. You should have these conversations. But so they meet. One of my, I was just like, okay. The band here, it was nice to, or not the band, but the musician. What his name? What's his name? I'm sure you know his name.
Tom Merlin
Tom Merlin.
or
Tom
Maryland.
Merlin.
It's like a Merryman.
Maryland.
Tom Maryland.
Tom Maryland. Um, Steals their gold,
Tom
but
is great. He is
yes, I have a
important.
feeling
He
he's going to
he is
be.
an important character.
Yes, I was just like waiting for him to join their group. Like it was like Tom has joined your party. Like I was just waiting for that moment. Um, but they also, but I mean, I'm just sticking with Rand and Matt right now. We can talk about the others later, but just following this through to completion. They're in this town. The barmaid, she's kind of nice. She takes them in. She lets them work to earn some money. So Matt is serving drinks and Rand is out back chopping firewood, and she gives them a place to stay. And her and Rand get pretty close, and they're on, opposite beds. And she reaches in for a kiss after they're talking, and Rand kind of pulls back. And then you get this weird scenario where she stands up and is like, you should have stayed in bed, Rand. And then like goes and locks the door, and you're like, what the hell is going on? And then she mentions something else that nobody should know. She says something like, well, where you came from, the two rivers, and if you're heading to the White Tower, you're never gonna make it like this. And
Well, he mentioned
Rand's like,
she mentions Egwin too. Like she mentions
that's
her
right.
name by
Okay,
name.
yeah. I forgot what she mentioned that like initially set everyone off. Like, what the hell is like? How does she know about this? And then, yep, it turns out she's like sold them to the Dark One. She's
She's a dark
basically
friend.
like she's a dark friend.
That's the term that they call them.
calls it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dark friend.
So how does one be? Maybe you can answer this for me. How does one become a dark friend? Does one call? Does one become an anonymous dark friend?
In the head.
You just go, yeah, I want to help you, Dark One.
I mean, there's servants of the Dark One that can deliver messages. It's like, think of the Shadow, right? He has a little like little messenger pipeline that's throughout the fantasy world. Remember the movie The Shadow? Remember that movie?
Oh,
Remember
I didn't know if you're talking about something else or the Alec Baldwin movie, The Shadow.
I was talking about the. No, I am talking about the Alec Baldwin movie, The Shadow.
I was like, why would he be talking about that?
Well, he has a little pipeline, little like messenger pipes that go through the city.
The little tubes. Yeah,
yeah, that's what they have. No, I mean, really, it's just think of just like being corrupted, like going to the dark side. Like he can affect like weak-minded people to do his bidding. He, she, it, whatever you want to call the Dark One. I mean, you're going to learn all this stuff. It's probably going to be explained way better than I can, because it is sort of just very convoluted and just like metaphoric. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, this person obviously is, I mean, they kind of explain it like, what? She is stuck in this town. She can't get out. She's wants to see the world. I'm sure those are real things. And the Dark One can affect her mind and taint her and corrupt her to do his bidding, to offer this place of glory after the fact. So it's like, hey, you help me destroy the world, and you'll have a higher standing in my court. That's kind of what the Dark One does, because you'll find out there is a court that literally actually dark court, and that's a spoiler. I'm sorry, but that's all I will say.
Okay. All right.
Metaphoric court, but like there is a hierarchy. Like Trollocs would be at the bottom, right? They got the mid-roll. And then you have like the dark friends are a little lower than a mid-roll. Yeah, right?
So not as low as a Trolloc.
But they're kind of scarier because you don't know who was a dark, because anyone can be a dark friend, right?
Yeah, that's the thing.
But that's all we know in the show, right? There's other ones eventually.
And it was cool that Tom helped them out. He stops her and he's like, yeah, Tom kills her, and Tom, Marilyn, and Rand and Matt seem like they're going to be traveling together, which is good. That's a good thing.
But there's a scene that you're forgetting that's kind of important too. Is What's the guy in the cage?
Oh yeah. Was he a White Cloak?
An ale. A-E-I-L.
A-E-I-L.
Ale. Sort of like.
What is that?
Sort of like people that live in the, like they wear like they're a race. They're people that live in this world, and he kind of gives a little brief explanation.
Right? Yeah.
If they have their mask up, that means
they don't understand. Yeah.
They're considered they're like the Indians of the world. They're like savages for most people, but they're actually really nice. Okay. But like if they have their veil up, that means they're gonna kill you. If they have their veil down, that means they're just want to have a beer, like that's their. But people treat them as a savage people. But sure. I don't. This is where I could say things, but they do give hints of connections and references in that scene, and I don't know if I should give it on this show. You want me to?
No, I think you should save it. I don't
But
want you to give
no,
it away from me.
I'm just gonna say it has to do with their hair color because he references their hair color, and there's a
Was it
very good,
blonde?
very zoomed in perspective of
Yeah,
the hair color, and it is red.
and it's red. Oh, that's right. He's a ginger. I remember it. I remember that. Yep. Yep. Okay. Okay. Let's. Okay. So at the end of Matt and Perrin's, I'm sorry, Matt and Rand's.
So hard not to tell
It,
you
it,
things.
yes. Just you gotta wait. You gotta wait for me. You gotta wait for me. I'm coming along though. Finally, Justin. So you've got so they join, like Tom joins up with them, and it seems like they're headed in one way. Um, they're headed east towards the White Tower. That's where Tom is headed. So
I like the representation of Tom. I just want to say that because he's a new character that he says is very
yeah,
important, and like he's younger than I envisioned him. I kind of envisioned him more like a Santa Claus.
okay.
Not necessarily that much beard, but like an older man with white hair, and like because there's a phrase like they always say like he knuckles his mustache, so he doesn't really have like a mustache to knuckle, I guess. Like that's what he says in the book. Like he just has he's a very long mustaches, so he knuckles them. I don't know. It's like a phrase they say. Yeah, that's how you do it right there. Like right.
Yep.
But yeah, so
So
I like his look though. I like his demeanor. I like the casting. I like the guy that plays him. I think he's a good person to be Tom because
good.
Tom is a good person that they need to have.
Seems like it. Seems
Yeah.
like a really really cool character to have along.
Yep.
You got Egwene and Perrin who are just like walking into the wind, and then
The wolves
they're
are
being
pushing them.
chased. Yeah, the wolves are pushing them. They feel like they're being chased by the wolves.
They meet
At
the
one point, they are being chased by the wolves, but at one point, though, they're trying to start a fire. Perrin's like, "The fire will keep the wolves at bay. Let's start a fire." And he's, the worst kind of fire starter. This is a person that if I was camping with, I would have been just like, "Move over
He's
already."
cold. His hands hurt. Come on, leave him alone. He's used to having a forge. He's not used to.
Like each one, I'm like, I was just waiting for him to cut off a finger. Like every time he tries to strike off.
It's winter. Seriously, come on.
Seriously,
I want to see you start a fire in winter
I've started fire in winter with cold hands before. I
with
know what
bloody
it's like.
hands.
This is what you do. You put one under here and one under here, and you wait a minute. You just wait.
He's bleeding
You
at the
start
leg. He has a gangly leg.
a gangly leg. Is that like a gangrenous leg? Anyways,
but
he's about to. He's
Egwene
doing it. Yeah.
Egwene wanted to go back home. Remember, like she wanted to go back to the Two Rivers, but Perrin's
Oh, and
like,
she asked.
but
Yeah,
Perrin's
she
like,
asked, where do you think Rand is going?
and Perrin says, oh yeah, he would go wherever you're gonna go. So he's gonna go
And
to.
he's assuming you're going to go, so that's where he'll go.
Perrin's smart.
Yeah.
Perrin's a very smart person. He just isn't.
I like Perrin. I like Perrin. I wish they didn't. To be honest, I wish they didn't do like I accidentally killed my wife with an axe.
So there's
Okay.
there's a theory, and I can say this theory because like she wasn't in the book, right? So I can explain this theory to you. The theory is that Layla is a dark friend online. Because if I rewatched it too, because it's like it's weird that she's there. She doesn't go to the party for some reason, and like when he accidentally kills her, right? She's in a position as if she's trying to kill him. Like she's got the axe up
Oh.
and like is about to
Oh.
kill him. And if it becomes that she's a dark friend and they find this out, I feel like that character's gonna make way more sense.
Yeah, that'll be. He'll be able to come to terms with it. He'll be able to like have closure.
Yeah, because they have this weird relationship, and I'm wondering if they're gonna have like more flashbacks to fill in these things. Because
Dude,
I really think they could benefit from a Tam flashback. They can benefit from like some flashbacks of like other characters in Two Rivers.
I have a feeling on the road they're going to be doing flashbacks. It seems like it was like just get them on the road, and then we can kind of build the backstory as we go. Which is fine. I think that's a good way to do it. But as long as the characters have like their objective in mind, then you can reflect on backstory and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that whole scene in the forge was like the weirdest fucking stuff. So she she's like, yeah, working the bellows and doing whatever it is in the forge while everybody's at this party. And here's exactly what happens. Perrin walks in and he goes, "Missed you at the party." And then he comes up behind her and goes, "I love you." And she goes, "I know," or like something like that. And then that's it.
Yep.
And it's like, what the hell were they even talking about?
Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully they can. If they can fix that, I feel like there's a way to fix that. If they don't, then oh well. That's my biggest complaint with the show. You know, it's like that's all I can say.
Like we need to give Perrin some emotional baggage for the trip, not just regular.
He's gonna have plenty. I don't know. I feel like they could have waited and still been a good character, but we'll find out. I guess I don't that part. That part I can't.
Yeah.
Can't see. I know we've been going long on this. But the Tinkerers, just your overall first impressions of Tinkerers, because I was so excited to see Tinkerers.
I love, as they used to be called, gypsies or tinkers or pikeys. Like
Tinkers.
It's all they're nomads. They're nomads, and yeah, it certainly felt like the wolves were kind of leading them in that direction towards safety, shelter, food, people who know how to make a fire.
Yep.
We didn't mention that Egwene, at the same time Perrin was trying to, she seems like she channeled a little bit of the one power. She weaved a little, and started the fire. And Perrin even recognizes it. He's like, "Was that me or was that you?" Mm. And so it's interesting to like see like Perrin is already kind of like seeing that in her after being around Moraine.
Yep. Perrin Egwene's journey is a good one. Like it hasn't quite hit its like high mark, I guess. Like. Mm-hmm. Like, Matt Rand's is always really good, especially because you got Tom. But Nynaeve and Moraine's journey, because it's kind of this, like, battle of wits between Lan and Moraine and Nynaeve, right? Yeah. I always say her name. I've always said Nynaeve, and I'm going to probably mispronounce it the whole time.
In the show, because honestly, I thought her name was like the number 9 and then the word Eve, like Nynaeve. Like that's how I was been remembering it. I wonder how it is. But yeah, let's talk about that because that's the end of Perrin and Egwene. They get to some safety with some relatively good people. Mm-hmm. And where we last left off, Moraine was still really really sick, and Nynaeve is threatening Lan and. Somehow he turns it around and she's tied up by, in short order, she's tied up. But then he releases her because he wants her to heal Moraine. And that's really what
but then he also trusts her too because she knows. I think he could tell that she is just going to heal people. Like she's a good person.
Yeah. And then she's not trying, it's not that she was looking out for the four kids from the village, like she wants to know where they are. Mm-hmm. She's trying to look out for them. So I think like her motivation's fine.
Her chasing them makes more sense in the book. It's not like it doesn't make sense in the show. It's just like because in the show they're like 20-something-year-olds and she could easily just stay in the village and heal everyone, right? But the fact that like Moraine takes a bunch of like 15-year-olds, or I think he's like 17 or 16 when he leaves in the book.
Yeah.
So like it's like her just like because she doesn't trust Moraine.
Sure.
And stuff like that.
They had a weird exchange at the beginning of the first episode, and so there was already this little tension between them. By the way, one of my favorite scenes from the last episode, I just have to mention this quick, is when Moraine kind of comes to for a minute when they're in the secret city. Or the Shattered City, or whatever. And she looks at Lan. She's like, "Where are we?" And he like kind of just doesn't say anything.
He doesn't say anything.
She's like, "You've doomed us all."
Yep.
And I love that part. It's just like, God damn it.
It's so good.
The one place I told you not to take us.
Yeah. But, no, overall, I mean, there's not much to talk about the Moraine and the Lan and Moraine story. It's like it's just them healing, and then I don't think there really is much else besides that, right?
No, but then he scouts ahead and he finds the Red Sisters.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
That's the ending, is because
they see
Moraine is like, God, like you can see on her face, she's like meeting somebody, like a colleague that she doesn't like to work with.
God, yeah. Blues and Reds, they don't like each other.
That like is already there, and she's just like, All right, hello, how are you? And they're like, Moraine Sedai. Nice to
Yep.
see you.
Yep. Yep. But they have I
He's like,
forgot they
did you
have
see?
what's his
We
name?
caught the dragon. We got him right here.
Yep.
And that's the guy from the beginning, right?
Yep. And I always forgot his name. I always forgot his name. What is his name? It's with the L.
Logain
Logain.
Ablar.
Logain.
Logain Ablar.
Yep. Yep.
A man who can channel the one power. And he is going insane, apparently, or the madness is on him.
Everyone can go insane. That's a man. So I'll leave it at this though: is that the descriptions of how you handle like the power in the book are awesome. That's like my favorite thing about the book series. And there's different genders to the power. There's Sadine, and then there's Sadar. So that's how you kind of do the different genders. They have different names
within the power itself.
There's Sadar and Sadine. So men can only tap into Sadar, and then females can only tap into Sadine. Sadine gives like sort of a euphoric, almost orgasmic experience. Like that's how it's described. Honestly,
yep,
it's like it's like this almost overwhelming experience, like where you feel enlightened and like positive, yeah. It's like where like Sadar is like the most like horrific, like my flesh is burning experience. Like it's like weird. It's like so intense. Like that's probably what I've loved about the series was like this like explanation of the power. It's not like, hey, we use the Force. Hey, we use magic. It's like, oh no, it's like this is how it feels to use it. You know,
it's not just talking about it. Actually, it shows rather than tells. That's good writing.
Mm-hmm.
That's good writing. Shows you what it feels like to use or to draw upon the power. Well, dude, I am stoked for the next episode.
Yeah, we talked about this way longer than we thought we were going to.
I know, but we had 3 episodes to cover. Next time we'll only be talking about one. We're going to be talking about episode 4, which is called The Dragon Reborn. And that drops on November 26th. That's Friday.
Hopefully this is out by Friday. I should be out by Friday, before Friday, right? I would think so, right?
We'll get this out.
Yeah. I'm curious what that's about. I wonder if that's going to be like an epilogue, or if it's going to be flashbacks, or they're just going to give you explanation on it. I honestly don't know.
If they flash to the very first scene of the show. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
No, I'm invested. I'm all in. They got me. They really had me from the first episode, but after seeing this 3-episode arc, seeing Logain Eblar in the very beginning and seeing him at the very end of this little arc, I'm very excited to see where this is going.
I hope this goes good. Supposedly, this is the rumor is it's going to be 8 seasons. That's what they want to try to do. So
8 seasons. Wow.
It could easily go that far. So.
Yeah. Yes, and they could, and if they have a plan and the books are already written, they're already like miles ahead of Game of Thrones.
You could cut a lot out of 7 and 8 because that's when Robert got sick a little bit. So I mean,
I'm sure that they'll find a way forward and a way to finish the series in a satisfying way. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Finally, getting into this, the Eye of the World and the Wheel of Time. It's exciting. It's very exciting.
Let's turn the page to the next episode.
As the threads continue to be weaved.
Well, thanks for listening. Thanks you for listening. This has been our first review of Wheel of Time. I'm excited. I'm Justin.
I'm Paul. Tune in again next time for more. Bye-bye.